Hey everybody, Sarge, reporting for duty for returning after a long break. Life gets in the way, as many know. I was gonna do a separate video talking about it, but life gets in the way. We're gonna move the heck on with everything that's been going on recently. I'm gonna take the Game Grumps better part of Valor and call it the Backstreet Boys reunion tour. Everything that's been going on in the world, cough, cough, sneeze, sneeze, and all that. Um, YouTube will YouTube is aggressive about you can't say certain things.
Oh,
So
I know.
yeah,
Trust me.
yeah.
I know.
So, um, but with that, I've got a little bit more time on my hands, thankfully, and I've finally managed to get my friend Gordi here, with me, and I'm looking to.
Actually, you met me after you went on hiatus, so they have no idea who I am anyway.
Yeah, so this is my friend Gordy. I am shifting content types a little bit. So Gordy and I actually hope before I post this, I'm gonna do another Reddit post. Gordy and I met through D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, which is an extremely large part of my life. It has been for a very long time, since long before I ever started made this channel, and Gordy joined in, and I started DMing, Dungeon Master, for anyone who doesn't know, running the game, and Gordy had some problems reading and comprehending the character sheet. So I hope you don't mind me just telling the
I is
story.
not smart.
So with I don't know how you want to call it, self-diagnosed dyslexia or undiagnosed.
So I am undiagnosed, but I have a lot of signs. I've had teachers question if I had dyslexia, but unfortunately I was never tested, and it's actually really hard to get tested as an adult because most doctors don't test once you're past like 10.
I actually
So
didn't know that part. But so yeah, so I want to ensure that I'm fully transparent about these things. That neither Gordy nor I are experts, and even the fact that Gordy isn't necessarily, we don't have official diagnosis, so you can take that how you will. I can't hear
yeah,
you.
a lot
Oh,
of
there you go. Okay, I thought you were
I
saying
wasn't
stuff.
talking.
Yeah, you glitched and flicked, so I wasn't sure. Sorry.
I wasn't talking. Unfortunately, there is a stigma against self-diagnosis, which is why I say I'm undiagnosed.
Yeah,
But I do have a lot of signs of different type of learning disabilities, but I don't have names for them. But
yeah.
I do believe I have some form of dyslexia, and it's possible I either have um, an auditory processing disorder. I don't
Mm.
know what else to name it,
You definitely have an issue.
and
I usually just call it an auditory processing issue.
yeah, and some kind of attention problem.
Yeah.
Whether or
So
not it's like ADD or autism.
yeah, who the heck knows? Like I said, I think it's just important that we establish from the get go. We're not claiming this is finite. We've had these things for sure. We definitely know what we're talking about, because God knows I don't know what I'm talking about most of the time. But so
I just know what works for me.
so Gordy and I sat down because Gordy was having trouble reading a standard D&D character sheet, and went through, because Gordy thankfully knows a little bit of Photoshop, and so the two of us made what we called a dyslexic friendly character sheet, and from that we posted it on Reddit, because mostly Gordy, but between the two of us it was easily about over 12 hours, right, of work.
Overall 12 to 15, because I did stay up the entire night working on it because I couldn't sleep.
Yeah. So after all that time, I kind of went, hey, why don't we post this on Reddit? And it got a large amount of decent feedback for it. And so D&D, balancing D&D and the ways to deal with people and situations regarding it is something that's become a massive interest of mine. It's been for a little while. And I thought, because I have ADD, which is diagnosed. I'm on medication for it. And that's really the most I have. When I look at a standard character sheet, I have no quarrel reading any of it. I have no problem understanding, comprehending, and finding what I need. Um, but so if anyone who's watched my older videos might remember Admiral Austin is an extremely intelligent, especially when it comes to analytics and analyzing these things. So I actually do intend on having him in on specific types of talks on things. But I want to, I wanted to start talking about D&D. I got like 40 subscribers. No one cares. I don't know why I'm trying to justify this, but yeah. So I wanted to start doing and talking about oh gosh, I had a term for it.
Accessibility.
Thank you. The accessibility in D&D and how to deal with different situations, aids that can help people, ways to handle different things, as well as the number side of things, because which is where I wanted to bring in Admiral Austin about what. I should just start calling him Austin. Jeez, I'm Crow. You guys are all just going to call me Keith anyways. But yeah, so it's something that I'm passionate about and I want to talk about. And I thought with Gordi here, because Gordi has a very different perspective than I do. Being they have to deal with these. Like, it never occurred to me. Literally, it never occurred to me that it might be difficult for someone to grab where something is. Like the thought, I'm sure at some point crossed my mind, someone might have trouble reading the sheet, but it never crossed my mind that, oh, I don't have problems reading, I don't know where it is.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's something that happens a lot, especially in games. Like when I used to play when I used to play board games with my ex-boyfriend, I struggled extremely hard because the fonts, the size, and the wording. Because it was extremely difficult for me. The best way I can explain it is when you look at a paragraph, my brain will start reading the letters in a zigzag. So if you have like before I lion, I would see BLI. So having giant chunks of paragraphs and words, my brain starts like reading like before lion I instead of before I lion.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it does. So I'm gonna try to keep because I'm gonna try to make sure that Gordy and I get equal conversation time or talk time. I make no promises because God knows I just don't shut up. But I want to talk about, because this all started entirely because Gordy had difficulties and I had zero problem with stopping and going, all right, let's see what we can make to help. I want to put apologies, but I do want to put the disclaimer. Neither of us are experts. Neither of us are claiming this is the universal solution to any problem. Nothing like that. It just
works for me, and from evidence of people all over Twitter and Reddit, it works for a lot of people of various disabilities. A lot of my issues are extremely common traits in several different types of disorders. So what I have difficulty in overlaps with a lot of things. So it's been helping people with autism, with ADHD, and other stuff too.
Vision problems. People with vision problems have made comments. So yeah, I wanted to put out that, like I said, that we're not claiming that this is the universal solution. We know how to do this, and this is the old. No. It's just if you're having trouble with with the things we're talking about, try it. Maybe it'll work, or you don't have. I don't know. It's just a kind of different take on things. I've seen a lot of D&D channels, and I haven't really seen any personally. I'm sure they exist that try to look at accessibility, because I don't think that D&D should be gate kept at all.
Honestly, I don't think gatekept is the right word in this situation. It's more, most people don't realize that, like, you didn't realize that the issues I had would happen because you're like, oh, this sheet makes complete sense.
Yeah.
It's just something you don't think about unless you know someone personally with said issues.
Yeah, okay. So I'll rephrase. I think that we as a community, people who play D&D and other tabletops as well, not just D&D, because I'm sure some of these could help in other games as well. I think it's important to look and do what we can to remove the barriers to entry.
There we go. That's a much better way.
So I just wanted to start this episode. We're already 10 minutes in, but I wanted to. I just wanted to do this
Welcome
episode.
to the podcast.
Yeah, right. I just wanted to do this one first and kind of show. And I apologize for any poor quality. We're gonna try to edit as best as we can, and as well as try to. Hopefully, I can improve quality as we go. We'll see. But I want to talk about what we've done thus far. And so
Yep.
I'm gonna switch over to the character sheet. So, I am literally only just now realizing I probably should have gotten an image of the original character sheet. If you just look up D&D character sheet online, though, you'll see the basic character sheet and how and how vastly different this is to it. Some
of the basic changes is something a lot of people have complimented us on. Is we added
iconography.
Thank you. We added a lot of icons to represent things. Thankfully, a user named Luckpack on Reddit granted us permission to use his icons.
I apologize. You glitched as you said, so I do want to read Luckpack. Because I want to. We've been real careful to make sure that the Luckpack gets credit, as well as I'm gonna put. I'll probably put a link below to the original post we made, which has the link to him. Her.
Yep, I'll try to get all the links.
Yeah, I was just put a link to the original Reddit post we did when we first posted this on Reddit, which has the links to everyone and everything. I don't think it's commentable anymore because time went by or some such.
According to Reddit, after 6 months of every post, they get rid of comments, which I think is weird. I think it should be at least a year, but
But so yeah. And I'll comment as well. One of the things, because Gordi has auditory processing issues, I sometimes will do that. You know, they're starting with something and I give them the word. I'm not. Gordi and I have an understanding. I'm not being rude or interrupting. I'm trying to help.
Yeah. So the best way I can explain my brain is it stutters, because one of my issues with reading and my brain is I think of the word, but in some cases, and this is my most embarrassing one, island. In my brain, I have to say island in order to spell it. I thought there were two different words for like years. So when I think of the word, it takes me a good, I want to say like 2 seconds to rewire and realize that's not the right word. Here's how it's said.
Yeah, which is something, actually, I think patience with someone like that is something I do want to talk about in another episode. I don't know if I want to call this episode, whatever. But yeah, so, and I wanted to reiterate as well, Gordi is the one who did all of the actual physical editing of this. You had a term for what I did. I forget what it was.
You gave me direction.
Yeah, because I was like, it wasn't director, I don't think, but something like, yeah.
Well, our art director is a thing. You gave me direction and instructions to what you think works.
Yeah.
And what looked correct.
Yeah.
Because with me, I don't know all the information necessary.
Yeah.
So I was able to put it together visually, but to make sure it was understandable.
That it had well, because actually one of the big ones I'll point out, if you look on the sheet, anyone who knows D&D, or if you compare the sheet, you'll notice what's missing, which is bonds, flaws, ideals, and
comprehensible. That's the word I was looking for. Sorry.
Right, and personality traits, I think it was. Something like that.
Yeah, a lot of the role-playing stuff that people don't really use on the papers.
Yeah, so it was actually one of our biggest criticisms, which is a perfectly valid and fair criticism, is that, you guys took out all of the basic roleplay stuff on the side, and upon doing this is because, as someone who intimately, I don't claim to be an expert, but who intimately knows the game, who's played God only knows how many hours,
You had 6 games a week at one point.
Yes, at one point when I didn't have a job, I had 6 games a week. No, I got up to 7. I got up to 7 a week. Um,
I can barely handle 2.
yeah. So, those. My cat is screaming at me. Um, so those bonds, flaws, ideals, and yada yada. And personality traits. Again, I think it's personality traits. Um, they're great for a new player who doesn't know how to make a character, who doesn't know a lot about developing a personality, or someone who straight up doesn't want to. Which is, there's nothing wrong with that. If you just, I don't want to deal with trying to make a character, I'm gonna roll, because D&D has in the book there's you just roll for the type of person you are, and and your background and stuff, and that's fine. But I personally had never played in a game where that was necessary in any way, shape, or form. So I just said, and I know you had said one of the big problems was size.
Yeah, so me personally, I
Believe
have
me, I
really
know
bad.
size is always a problem.
Me personally, I have really bad eyesight. I actually should be wearing my glasses right now, but my headphones make my head hurt. I am nearsighted in this eye and farsighted in this eye, so my eyes will fight each other. So when text is super tiny, my eyes will start fighting even more, and it gives me constant migraines. And it makes reading even more difficult because I can't comprehend different letters, like A's, E's, O's, all look the same to me in many fonts.
Really, I thought you would have gone with what, P, D, B, and Q.
Those I've learned to decipher
Oh.
because of which side the line is on.
Uh,
But other letters like M and N, I always confuse each other because they, especially if they're next to each other, is
yeah.
like in the word damn.
Shadow, censor that out.
Yes.
So yeah, there's I don't know if you want to start talking about the iconography that you used. I think a lot of it's straightforward. The main one I would like to address here and now is on hit die. It is not toilet paper.
God.
So many comments. It is not toilet paper. Actually, I didn't know what it was because that was an asset from Luckpack.
Am I the only one who thought it was Band-Aids?
Was it you? I thought it was a user made a comment.
I said maybe Band-Aids.
Well, that was why I got confused because of your wording. Because you had said Band-Aids. It was a user who had said bandages.
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain it's supposed to be a roll of bandages. I'm not claiming it's perfect. If it
had like a crosshatch or something, it probably would have worked.
But. Yeah, actually, that would be. The problem is then it takes up the area where you're putting numbers. So, but so the basic stuff seems pretty simple. Armor class was kept the same because the shield works for AC.
Yep.
Initiative, the exclamation point, speed, and arrow. Before I get into other stuff, if you want to go over some of the iconography, I don't know how much it matters to go over the minutia of it.
I actually don't have the sheet in front of me. A lot of it's very simple and standard. Like, an arm is strength, an eye is insight, or something like that.
Wisdom, which is insight, is wisdom based.
Yeah.
Insight and perception are both wisdom based, which is one of the reasons it's an eye. It's actually, I think of all of them, that is the weakest of everything, the most difficult to really connect to. But as I understand it, it's not about necessarily. I'm asking you, as I understand, it's not about it making sense. It's about knowing this symbol means this, right?
It really depends on the person. To me, it's more I can match the icons to something. Like, even if the eye doesn't make sense to me, like, although to me, I feel like the eye is like the third eye thing in some cultures. That's where my brain went.
Yeah.
But even if someone didn't understand that, it'd be like, oh, the eye equals wisdom because it's next to wisdom or something like that.
Yeah. What I currently have on screen is the colored version, actually, as well, which is something that someone else I know requested, because I know several people who have issues with processing and visual and reading issues, and one of them requested that it's difficult, especially with the skills, to look at, especially during character creation, to know what skills go where. So in the one that you currently have on screen, they're color coordinated. Strength is red, so that means the STR next to strength on any strength based skills, which I believe is just athletics. Because F strength, I guess, I don't know. There's balancing stuff I could go into about that, which is fine, but whatever. Yeah, but that STR is red, so to try and correlate that. There is again, if you the link down below to the original Reddit post. I probably will post the link to the other Reddit post that I plan to make about this episode. It it also has a black and white version for anyone who won't care about that or doesn't have the ink for that.
Yeah, that way you can also, like I do, I use highlighters to color things the way I need it.
Excuse me.
So,
Oh, sorry. I don't know if you had another point.
it's just another way to customize it. Like, I know I have friends who are red-green colorblind, so they could use colors they can see.
Yeah, so also on the link, if anyone knows how to use Photoshop, there is an editable version. You can then you can do it, and if you know Photoshop, have fun. We're sure as heck don't own this stuff.
It is in a Photoshop document, so you might have to put it into a PDF file, or depending on what program you use, you might have to use a converter. Unfortunately, I use Photoshop, so that's why the file's like that.
Yeah. So I do want to get into real quick before moving on the minutia of the other little details that were changed that very, very much were not at all due to an inability to read, but issues I have had for a long time with the sheet. Taking out the bonds, flaws, ideals, I understand why people needed them, but that was one I had really wanted because I personally have never seen someone use them. If you need them, great. I do think that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. No one I have ever played with uses them. Personally.
We do have blank spaces on other parts of the sheets that you can use them for.
Yeah, so, I mean, because that's the other thing, too, is bonds, flaws, ideals, and personality traits you could put on the back of with the standard second sheet in D&D, which is character details. That's the character details sheet. You can put them there, so my thought was it's fine to remove them. The fire, that's another one everyone's asked about, is what is that for? And for me, I asked Gordi to add it because there's my cat is screaming again. Aurora.
It's pretty much a free fall for whatever you need it. Barbaric inspiration, gadget points,
Bardic.
whatever.
Sorry.
What works for your kind of character. I use it to keep track of my inspiration points for when one of our players, T, gives us bardic inspiration. It helps me keep track.
Yeah, you can use it for key points if you're a monk. If you're a rogue, you could potentially use it to keep track of your sneak attack damage. There's just a bunch of resources that certain classes have that I felt it doesn't hurt with the extra space to add something for them. The removal of EP, something actually I don't think many people noticed because no one uses EP. If you do use
I don't even know what EP is.
Yeah, if you use EP, I apologize. I don't mean to offend. Why are you using EP? I genuinely don't understand it. Well, I do understand. I have issues with EP.
Before you go on a 20-minute rant.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into it. I got into it with a couple of friends earlier tonight about it, and not fighting, just going off about how much I hate EP. So no one I know uses EP. I think it's a terrible thing to include in the system. It doesn't work with the base 10 system that they have. It bothers me. Moving on. So I asked Gordi to remove that, and there's a few stylistic changes here and there, but nothing that I care to mention. And attunement slots. I don't understand why the base sheet didn't have attunement slots on it. So I asked Gordi to add that in as well. Again, I do hope people know I'm not claiming to be perfect on this. Neither of us are, because there's some ever so slight line spacing issues. I think very decently a few of them caused by attunement slots there.
Most of it is because of how Photoshop works and the ways I made it. It's only really noticeable is if you're like opening up in Photoshop and you're like looking super far into it.
I mean, it was noticeable to me when I'm writing. When one space I've got more room, and the next one I have to write smaller. So
Yeah, but it, nothing can be perfect, especially
yeah,
since it was handmade.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah.
Um,
So if that bothers you, I'm sorry.
yeah. You can pay us and we'll try to fix it. Uh,
Yo, my mom still tells me I should be charging for these.
there's all kinds of legal stuff because we don't actually have the rights to any
I
of
tried to
this.
tell her that.
But so this is just the basic character sheet you see here. Yeah. So next up, I'm actually. Do we want to talk about the decision tree or the uh, attack thing?
I think the decision tree first because
Okay.
then it would make sense on why I need those.
Okay. So I
I think
apologize.
it's a better representation.
Yeah, I apologize for the not great pictures. I tried to find the ones that I have, and I can't find them here. I can't find at my here being my house, but this was the basic start of what we did, which was and again, this is something I hadn't considered is the amount of time the amount of stuff that can happen and the amount of choices you have to make. So Gordy here
So
likes to do. I was just going to check minutia. I apologize. Gordy likes to do.
yeah, it's
I'm interrupting Cal.
sorry. So just a quick explanation. Just like I explained earlier, my brain takes a little bit more to process. So
Mm.
instead of like a smooth train, there's little bumps. So when I'm trying to focus on people talking, I can't multitask mentally to the point where I can also figure out my entire turn. And with all the amount of information you have to process per turn, like as you can see with the decision tree, there's a lot of steps, and my character is not a complicated character.
Yeah. So getting into the slight minutia real quick. Gordy likes to play a long range fighter. Um. So. Any long range user that is not a pure magic user knows that one of the best feats you can take is sharpshooter.
Yep.
But sharpshooter adds very heavily its own complications, especially when you're a fighter who has like 500 attacks a turn.
Yep.
So this was the start. You see attack bow on the top, and if you look, there's a line lower in the second half is attack short swords to differentiate which weapon are you using, because it's not going to be the same. It's straight up
I
not.
always forget I have a sword.
Yeah, because you realistically, it's nowhere near the level of efficacy you have with a sword is substantially less than with a bow. But so you go. Then it's actually hard to see the first line, but so you choose to attack line. There's a line coming down to sharpshooter, and usually Gordy has a little. We usually use a washer, and just place it on
Yeah, just something that we can put on top.
to indicate the choices. So Gordy has a visual representation of what's happening, as
And
well as
if I forget to say I'm using X, they my team can actually see what I'm doing because there's a lot of times I will forget to say I'm using sharpshooter.
yeah. So that was actually specifically what I was about to say. So I stopped. I figured you and I were on the same page. Well, I don't think we got any comments about it, but Gordy and I were thinking about the fact of something like this. I would hope could it potentially help someone who English is a second language, someone who is a mute or selective mute. What's it called?
Selective mute. And another thing is actually something I do is nonverbal. So when I'm going through things like panic attacks, my vocal cords basically like shut down. So I have to use ASL, American Sign Language sometimes.
Well,
There are
it's not your vocal cord shutting down; it's your brain not processing. But
well, yeah, but it feels like
just putting it out there so we don't sort of sound you. Oh, they've got a medical condition where their vocal cords stop functioning. No, it's just a processing thing.
yeah, which again is a very common thing in a lot of learning disabilities like autism. So we figured it's a great way to help people who cannot communicate the same way as other people because I can't communicate the same way the rest of the players can.
Yeah. So, um, I don't know that it would help people with these issues, but it might. That's kind of where I came from. So you go, are you using sharpshooter? Yes or no? You roll, and we can get into the why it says roll orange. I'll get into that in a few minutes. The green is because Gordi was a martial. I can't remember the type of fighter. I think it's martial. Battle master. Battle master. Gordy's character was a battle master fighter, which means see, I got the rules. They're all up here because I'm a nerd. It was a battle master, so they had superiority dice, which is also, if you look in the top left, that's what those 5 circles are, so that Gordy can keep track of what superiority dice they've used.
Yeah, because one of my biggest problems is I struggle with memory. I don't know what problem. I struggle to remember things a lot, especially like how many moves I've done, what I've used, things like that, because there's just so much going on at once. Like my turn, everyone else's turns is just like...
Yeah. So to help keep track of these things there's those 5 circles. Because I believe at the time, you had 5 superiority dice.
At most 5, yeah.
Yeah. So roll orange for now. Again, I'll get into that in a few minutes. It just means roll a d20, and then +7. If you don't, it's +12. We put that because one of their fighter maneuvers, it was I think it's precision strike, I believe it was called, and it's
something like that. Yeah.
You can roll your superiority dice and add it to your roll. So again, I don't know how helpful it was, but that's why I put before hit on there. You can.
For me, it helped me remember, I need to do this before said action.
Yes, and I put before hit because it meant you can roll your d20 and judge from there. Otherwise, I would have put the superiority dice above the d20. It also, I put the +1 to 10. I don't know how much it helped you to try and put it reminds that the green was an indicative of a d10. So whatever you rolled, if you rolled a 2 +7, that's 9, and you know the guy has a 20 AC, you can roll a 10 on your superiority dice. You're still not going to hit him.
Yeah, it actually did help me a lot. It's been helping me learn too. Yeah. Because
about odds.
Yeah, for me, I need a physical representation of things. Like, you cannot explain something to me just by words. I will not explain it. Like, if you described a pink plushie, I can't tell if you're talking about Jigglypuff or an axolotl.
They can't see you. They can't see you right now. Hold on. Here we go. Now they can see us.
As I was saying, like, if you just describe a pink round plushie, I can't tell if you're talking about Jigglypuff or this cute little axolotl. I have to see something to process it, basically. Yeah.
So, and then it's pretty simplistic from there other than the colors. Did you hit yes or no? From there, the green, again, that's your superiority dice because you can add to damage. Excuse me. And then roll pink and these other things. Again, I can get to, jeez, I'm crow, +17 and +7. And I'll get into that later. Same thing with the short sword. Same basic idea. It was just much smaller because it was in the sharpshooter edition. So I just that was why all that is there. Moving on. After that, I had for the next page, action surge. Yes or no? This is really where I personally started to realize exactly how many choices you have, and how much happens in a turn. Because Gordi is playing a tiefling, hence they get another action. So you could do skill check, move, how much movement you have. Attack again, which would bring you back to this again, as a tiefling, the variant of tiefling they had, I don't think it's just that tiefling, but either way, and this is another, had darkness once per day or thaumaturgy, which is a very big and difficult word, so we made it Thumbcraft because I forget.
Which is a Minecraft mod that I know pretty well. So my brain was able to um,
Associate.
associate. There we go. I was able to associate them together because they are very similar.
So, um, we went on to that so that to help Gordy follow. Then bonus action. Before everyone asks or makes comments, I am aware that drinking a potion is normally a full action. For us, we have variant homebrew rules that it's a bonus action. Don't come at me.
Or we'll yeet your comment.
um, again, I could easily do a whole thing about action economy and why we did that. That's another like 500-hour thing I can get into. But we're already at over half an hour right now. So,
Jesus.
Yeah, we are. So, second wind, again, just basic concepts. Again, I can get into it in the next slide I have. You'll see the green, and I'll get into what that means, plus 13, because we were level 13. So, just markings to help Gordy recognize what they need, what numbers to add.
This is also a perfect example of how someone neurodivergent, I think the term is.
Yes, that is the term.
Processes something different than a neurotypical person. So he could not understand what I was struggling with until we made a physical representation of how my brain is processing things. So it took that for him to understand how I needed certain things.
Yeah.
Like, he already knew I had issues, but I just could not verbalize it properly enough for him to comprehend. And so we designed this stuff.
Yeah, which helps Gordy and helped me especially as a DM at the time to understand what the player is going through, which I think is very important. But so again, I'm not going to break this entire thing down as I did the other one because it's mostly straightforward. But yeah,
it's almost the same thing too. Yeah. It's just as it's straightforward.
Yeah. So actually, if you notice in the top though, that says 3. This one, it might be hard to see. It says 2. That's because we're numbering these pages. And I wanted to start with that because to me, attacking is the most basic concept you can understand in D&D before anything else, and how that works. Again, you could argue me on that. That's fine. Just to me, that's the way it is. So I wanted to go then to what actually is page 1. And this is what I'll get into because thankfully, Gordy actually also in this picture that they took has their dice. So this is what we meant because I'll let you go into it because I don't still to this day actually 110% understand it.
So for me personally, going back to the vision problems we talked about earlier, I struggle to distinguish different shapes from each other. So if you look at a D20 and a D12, I believe, what's the red one?
D12, yes.
Yep. They look almost identical to me if the dice are the same color or same design. It's because I can't see the separate sides like I can on a D6, for example. So by having them in different colors, I can process, okay, so I need the orange die and the blue die instead of thinking the 12 and the 20.
Yeah, which then helped with making these other pages, as I said. So, roll an orange, that's roll a 20. Do you want to add a green? That's a D10. That was what that's all about. It was also to help with the instruction process of understanding what's going on.
Yeah, so when Teeth... Wow. When Keith starts explaining attacks and then goes by the colors... I can visualize the color of the die and go, okay, right, the pink one and the blue one instead of 6 and
D100.
Thank you.
Blue is a D100.
See,
D100. They also can see it on the screen right now because if I'm recording properly, you shouldn't be able to see either of us, but should be able to see the sheet.
Yes. So this could also be helpful for people who struggle with numbers. And for me, it makes things a lot faster because I don't have to count the sides and I don't have to look for the biggest number on said die. So I can easily grab the colors I need.
Yeah. So this is also where I started to realize how complex things get, because I realized that initially the first 2 pages I showed you guys was the first pages I had made, because again my brain went, oh, the most complex thing is following what to do when you're attacking. And then I realized there's also, especially as a fighter with Indomitable, attacks of opportunity, there is, and as a tiefling, you have Hellish Rebuke, as you can see, I'm sure. There's a lot to do even not on your turn. So I don't know how helpful it was. I didn't always see you using that, but I mean, I definitely, I think, was there for
Which
when
one?
it was necessary. Because the first page is round your turn, yes or no, and on the no side, are you making a save, yes or no? Reaction, yes or no?
So, I don't know if you have it nearby, but I didn't really use that much because
Mm.
we made something for me to help with attacks, and so I did something similar in my own brain to keep track of people's turns,
Mm.
or I'll look at said person when it's their turn. That way, I can keep track of. Okay, so X is turn, so I just stare straight at them the entire turn.
Well, it wasn't about whose turn it was. The point of that was about what there are things that you might have to do. There are rolls you might have to make off turn. Like if you're making a save.
Oh,
Yeah, apologies. Gordy can't see what I can, because I'm recording, so I can see everything. Yeah, it's no. Are you making a save? Yes or no? Yes. Then there's the option of Indomitable, which those 2 circles above it are to keep track, because Gordy had Indomitable
yeah.
twice a day. For anyone who
A
doesn't.
lot a lot of those times you were already telling me and or asking me those questions.
There.
So, but with a different DM, I would probably be using those more.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, Indomitable means that if you make a save and fail it, you can choose to re-roll, but you can only do that twice at the level we were at, twice a day. I apologize for the cat screaming in the background if you can hear it. I know, life is a misery. If you're not making a save, you have a reaction. You in parentheses only 1 per round. From there, you can attack of opportunity, or you can. Oh my god, my cat! I swear. Hellish Rebuke once per day, and then the text to kind of try to help Gordy understand. Even if you actually look, it might be hard to see. Next to Dex, we actually cut out a little the iconography from the character sheet of the hand, because they have to make a Dex save, DC 14, for half damage. Roll 3 green. So again, 3d10.
Yes. Yeah, since I already had the process of this icon equals X, I was able to just see, like, oh, there's the picture. That means Dex. So I look for the picture on the main paper.
Yeah. So those are the main. I just wanted to go over that, and then there is one other thing. They could see us again. There's one other thing that I did want to show. The version I have here is the prototype. I know it doesn't look good. I have a better version, but I usually use it for turn order. Some of you might have seen something similar on, I guess, Matt Mercer. I don't really watch personally. I don't too often watch Critical Role.
A lot of professional shows use these things.
Yes, but
this is also what I mentioned briefly.
yes. So, oh goodness gracious, I hope this isn't flipped for people. But if it is, anyways.
It looks fine on Discord.
Yeah, I don't know if I hope OBS. I think OBS. Yeah, if I'm seeing the exact same thing, it's flipped, and I apologize. Maybe we can flip it back. If it's normal, I'm gonna look like an idiot for talking about this for like 4 hours. But yeah, because Shadow might be able to edit this and make it better. But so Gordy can keep track of when they have when they do their first attack. It is complete as they go, and can then do. You have action surge. So if you don't want to use it, your turn's done. I'm messing everything up because it's usually just flat on the table.
And on the back of action surge, it actually says per rest. So that would help remind me of, like, oh, I need to rest before I can use this again.
Which I put down as in my circles. I don't know if everyone does. In the circles I run in, per rest is a term that is used to indicate short or long rest, because both are rest. So any rest you take, you'll get it back. That's specifically why I didn't put short or long slash long or anything like that. The circles I have at least just go per rest. That means basically short or long.
Yeah, and honestly, this was extremely easy to make. It's a wooden dowel on a wooden board.
Yeah, if you've got the tools for it, it's not too hard. You do need to have a drill. No, to use a drill, they're power tools, so I
Or
don't want
super
to.
glue if you want to go cheapo.
You can. I don't think it'll be as well go off as well
Or
as
make a paper one.
we used hot we used hot glue. We I totally didn't saw and get PVC dust all over myself in a closed and not poorly ventilated area. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. Don't
At
be.
least I had a mask.
Yeah, don't. I don't know what you're talking about. It totally didn't happen because you shouldn't do that. But I got a better version where this is a dowel, a smaller, thinner dowel. I've got did a whole thing with that. But so I just wanted to show this for. This is how one of the ways that Gordi was. This I believe this was the first thing we made, wasn't it?
Physically, yes. That was one of our first attempts because
after the sheets.
After the sheets, I was struggling really hard keeping with how many tacks I had because one of our DMs gave me fighter because I tried to describe what I wanted to play and I didn't know classes and stuff like that. I didn't realize it would have 6 attacks at the time.
Yeah, 6 attacks are maximum potential. It's a lot to follow. So mixed the following the number of attacks with the what to do on your turn from the sheet. So
you could probably do this on a piece of paper too, like how we made the decision trees.
Oh, absolutely.
If you don't want to build something, I personally need the physical object to focus with.
Yeah.
And it helps, once again, my teammates to know what I'm doing.
Yeah. So, that was the main stuff I just wanted to talk about. That's the basics. This is the first one. Again, I don't know if episode's the right word, whatever, that we've done. I wanted to establish what we've done, establish the concept that I'm going with here, what we're going to be talking about, as well as what I wanted to talk about going forward is just different issues that can arise and how to handle them, how I think you should handle them, how we think you should handle them, how we think you should deal with them. Gordi giving the perspective of someone who's dealt with these, me not, and me is not.
And once again, to clarify this one more time, we are not experts. We just know what works for me. I am unfortunately undiagnosed with whatever is going on in here. So I cannot say I have X. I can only make assumptions. Like I have lots of traits that are very similar to many things. Yeah. So I cannot say, oh, this works for X disability. This works for XYZ.
I don't think anything really usually works for everyone with any disability or anything like that.
Yeah, but just trying to throw it out there is I can't say this works for my version of disability. This just works for me. It seems to work for other people too. So
at least some other people.
Through comments on Twitter and on Reddit, the sheets themselves at least have shown to be very, very acceptable. The right word?
They seem to work well, but and I do want to call. It's not always going to be about. I don't think it will be very often. Will we be talking about like what tools you can use necessarily? A lot of it, at least a lot of what's rattling around up here is concepts of how to deal with situations, how to deal with different disabilities, and that can include tools. It can also include just comments, things I've learned as someone who knows the game intimately. That's kind of my role here. Someone who understands, well, you can't just say ignore this because rules need to matter.
Yeah, and I can give experience as a brand new player because I only tried D&D one other time, and unfortunately, I can tell the story another time. They were not a good DM or person in general, so it was a very bad experience for me. So having Keith listen and try to understand was one of the best experiences I've had trying the game. So that's something we just want to establish is try to be patient and listen to your players. especially if they're scared. A lot of times we're scared to admit we have these issues because unfortunately there are very judgmental people. So
Yeah.
if someone says, "Hey, I'm struggling with this," don't just go, "Oh, how can you? That's easy to understand."
Yeah.
And crap like that.
We can get more into that later. I just wanted to put
Oh
that
yeah,
out that it's
just
not always going to be
saying.
about use these tools. No, it's not, because these are the tools that work for Gordi. We're going to look at some other concepts, ideals, and I want to bring in Austin just for the fact of his level of analysis on the way the game breaks down is a lot more intimate than either of us. So that's
Yeah,
the idea I have for the roles, if you were, of what we're all going to be doing.
yeah, definitely a different perspective.
Yeah. And until I figure it out, I'm probably just going to keep doing my standard outro. So deal with that. I don't care. Um, so yeah, remember to like video, comment on the video. Any thoughts, ideas are very much welcome. Concepts. If you think I'm a giant jerk, please let me know. um, and subscribe if you want to see more content like it, because I do want to start uploading these kinds of things regularly. Anything
Totally check
else?
out my Twitch in the description.
Yeah, I'll put it. Yeah, so check out Gordy's Twitch in the description down below. Any last words, Gordy?
Hope you guys have a great day, and thank you for watching. Have a good day. Bye.
Sarge being live duty. Have a good one, guys.